The Champions League in Japan saw over 7,000 players, and it's in our post-rotation format. So we're seeing the first glimpse of a major tournament post-rotation. There was a lot of surprises, such as all the decks in the top 8 pretty much featuring Teal Mask Ogre Pawn EX. Sup y'all, I'm Zach Lesage from the Shuffle Squad, and I'm here to kind of share what my thoughts are on the metagame, top decks, and anything else I decide to throw on the channel. That's how Pokemon channels go. Hopefully you like it. If not, that's cool. If you like it, give this video a like, share, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what deck you're rocking with. That being said, if you want to copy and paste any of these deck lists right into PTCG Live, I will be posting the link on Limitless right over on the description. That being said, before we jump into deck lists, I am going to turn off my camera and my name, and the sponsor is real. Sorry, y'all. Support the sponsors if you want to see more videos. So we see the winner playing Mega Absol Box. Now, Mega Absol Box in our post-rotation format, we do lose access to Turbo Energize or Technical Machine Energize. So we have to find other ways to power a Pokemon, and that's really where Teal Mask Ogre Pawn is going to be using Teal Dance. Teal Dance allowing us to attach an energy, and of course you'd expect there's going to be some energy switches. So very similar to early Ogre Pawn boxes. One thing I could say about this deck, make sure you have access to Teal Mask Ogre Pawn. I think this card's going to go up in price, especially when it comes to if you want to play the Bling versions. The Twilight Masquerade right now is $18.98. And the Prismatic Evolutions SIR is worth $20. Those could easily double in price over the next little bit as players pick up cards for the post-rotation format. Another thing to note is we do not have access to Iono anymore, so there's very limited hand disruption. Some players are playing Harley Quinn, other players are playing Judge. In this case, we see that Unfair Stamp is the ace-spec of choice, so switching from Precious Trolley and going with ways to just search out your Pokemon. I mean, maybe using Brock Scouting with Meowth. Meowth does allow you to search for a supporter card. Very similar to what we've had with Tapu Lele GX in previous formats. And we also have Crispin as a way to accelerate energies to our Pokemon. Do I think that this is a very successful deck or will be very successful? I mean, I think box type decks can definitely be surprising to opponents. I'm sure this player might have surprised some players with Cornerstone Ogre Pawn EX, might have surprised some players with Lilith's Clefairy EX, and Mega Absol EX is quite a powerful Pokemon, and of course with Monkey Dory. It's funny that but after the European International Championships, sorry, I'm losing my words here, that Mega Absol won there, and now it won this 7,000 player Champions League tournament. Mega Absol just seems to kind of be him. So on that note, definitely have this deck to kind of watch out for. And then we see another Ogre Pawn deck that made top 2. Now this is just kind of a straight version of the deck where you have Teal Mask Ogre Pawn, you have Meganium, which can double the effects of energies, and then we have Arbolova or Arbolova. I actually don't know how to pronounce this Pokemon, and I'm sure like someone's gonna roast me in the comments. Choose one of your opponent's Pokemon 6 times. For each time you choose a Pokemon, do 20 damage to it. This might be a pretty cool way to just snipe something off the face of the planet, and maybe like it just has big HP. This is a card that I definitely thought was bulk, and I just don't own this card because I probably bulk them out when I'm selling whatever cards I sell to people who are vending at regionals or at local stores or whatever. Maybe I need to pick them up. It just came second at a 7,000 person tournament. It can't be that bad. Maybe someone else, like, again, like choose one of your opponent's Pokemon 6 times. Like, I mean, you're doing 120 to each. So like maybe, you're doing 120 damage overall and you get to spread, choose one of your opponent's Pokemon 6 times. Okay, so you can choose the same Pokemon more than once. Okay, so as I'm reading this, so you can like choose like Duskull. I mean, I don't know how I like this too much. Like, it seems like if this was a basic Pokemon, I'd be like, oh, that's kind of cool. But it just seems to be pretty costly when it comes down to it. Anyways, maybe it's just cool. Maybe using Oil Salvo with 310 HP is really cool, and that slops your opponent. There's nothing like Hawlucha that adds damage. You can see Meowth continues to be like a 2-up count in the deck, so Meowth seems pretty important. They have the copy of Judge, again, searchable by Meowth. Bug Catching Set, again, Unfair Stamp, so grass type decks seem pretty good. And as other big bad decks like Goldango, Gardevoir, Charizard get faced with the format, maybe these decks have an opportunity to shine. Third place, we have Dragapult, pretty much the only top 5 deck that we have that continues on in the format. This is Dragapult with 3 copies of Monkey Dory, being able to move damage counters. Straight Dragapult might be a good call instead of Dragapult Dusknoir, so you can use Adrenabrain and put those Phantom Dive damage counters back on your opponent's Pokemon. I think it's a pretty interesting build with Area 0 Under Depths, Shaman, Shen Pao, and of course 2 of the Meowth again. So I think one thing is, like, as I'm looking towards these post-rotation decks, maybe 2 copies of Meowth just happens to be the right copies of Meowth, and using Area 0, because you're a Terra Pokemon, to add more space to the bench and really kind of pop off from there, really gives us an opportunity to kind of see exactly what's going on. Crispin seems to be the preferred choice to really rock and roll with these energies. And you can see Unfair Stamp here's again. Now, Unfair Stamp is rising in price. It's already $12 US. And Unfair Stamp was not really that popular before. So as we look into it, kind of growing and seeing more success, I do think it's a worthwhile pickup because you're probably going to need it for a few more of your decks. Especially if you're a player like me, I play with only the stamped version with the play pack stamp, and those are probably going to be very expensive, similar to how new upper energies are close to $30-something, if I remember correctly. We see 4th place, we're going to see another Teal Mask Ogerpon deck. This deck actually running no Meowth. I guess it's probably because we have Noctowl, but we do see Teal Mask Ogerpon kind of continuously seeing success. I don't know why it was all Teal Mask Ogerpon. I didn't really get that idea from post-rotation going into it. But it seems like players were really trying to counter the Dragapult gameplay with Fairy Zone really knocking Pokemon out. And if you're going with 4 copies of Crispin, since Professor Sada's Vitality is out of the format, we do have access to powering up a Lily Sclefairy and getting a knockout out of nowhere. Again, not going with a Prime Catcher that we have, going with Unfair Stamp. So really you can see like Unfair Stamp and Meowth, or like some kind of searchability with the Terra Noctowl, giving yourself a lot of opportunities to see some success there. So I think that the deck overall, or the metagame overall, is really shifting to Pokepad's a really good card, Teal Mask is a really good card, Meowth, Noctowl, searchability, things that are finding stability in this format, very good cards, or things that can maybe stumble your opponent on their stability. Crispin seems like a very good energy accelerator post-rotation, so even if we're not like interested in Raging Bolt, we can take aspects of different decks and really try to apply them to different things. At our 5th place, we saw Crustle. Now, one thing that's interesting about Crustle is there's still Mist Energy in format. Mist Energy is from Temporal Forces, so still in format. The best way that I remember post-rotation when it comes for me sorting my cards is A-Spec sets on are illegal. And Temporal Forces were the first A-Spec set, the one that had Prime Catcher, and I think other cards like Hero's Cape was also from Temporal Forces. Wait, Hero's Cape's a $13 card? What? Yeah, sorry. Crustle is pretty good in the sense where if you have a Mist Energy, your opponent playing Absol can't really damage it. Maybe there's not enough decks that can damage it. Now, there are some interesting pieces here that I don't necessarily get. If this Pokemon has any Darknate and is damaged by an attack, flip a coin if heads prevent that damage. Pheasantipity is a pretty interesting choice. I don't really see how it's seeing a lot of success, and maybe I just don't get it. Maybe someone else in the comments wants to let me know exactly why this card's going to be seeing success, but cool. It's awesome, I guess. You can have a decent bit of energies on there. There's no Teal Mask. There's no way to double up on anything. So when it comes to being a psychic Pokemon, you can't do extra damage with lilies. Maybe it's just a decent attacking Pokemon for a single energy that can maybe like bide some time while you set up a Crustle in the background. The other card that I thought was interesting was Team Rocket's Articuno. Prevent all effects of attacks done to your opponent's Pokemon, done to your basic Team Rocket's Pokemon. The only Team Rocket's Pokemon they play is Team Rocket's Articuno. And if this Pokemon has any Team Rocket's energy attack, it only does 60 more damage. Now, they didn't play any Team Rocket's energy, so they can only do 60. This is really confusing to me, and there's no card that makes your Pokemon Team Rockets. So I honestly don't know if it's just like the way that the deck imported into Limitless, but there seems to be some confusing cards in this deck. I don't really get the Pheasantipity. I don't really don't get the Team Rocket's Articuno. Everything else seems really standard, and the rest of the deck looks really standard. So if anyone, like, if I'm just like, don't understand, let me know. I couldn't imagine putting this card down to prevent all effects of your opponent's basic Pokemon done to like things like Articuno. I don't get it. That's just me. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Anyways, let me know. We see Dragapult Dust Noir making top 8 at this tournament. This is kind of what I expected. Again, double Meowth, really putting that forward. The 1/1 Noctowl just to make the deck a little bit more consistent. Pokapad seems to be a really huge staple. Then we see Rose's Encouragement. This is a card that looks like it's coming from Perfect Order, which is going to be our next mainstream set that we get in March. You can only use this card if you have more prize cards remaining in their opponent. Attach up to 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile to one of your stage 2 Pokemon. So that can be used as a slightly different Crispin that is searchable with Meowth, so that makes a lot of sense. Having access to Briar makes a lot of sense, especially since we have access to Meowth to directly search things out. And Unfair Stamp continues to be the A-spec of choice when it comes down to these. Now, if we look at the Crustle deck, we have Hero's Cape, as that's the first time that we've seen a non-Unfair Stamp. And then we'll move on to another Dragapult build, where I'm sure we're going to see Unfair Stamp again. This looks like a little bit more of a straight-up version of Dragapult, and I kind of like this version than the version that plays a little bit higher. Going all in on consistency, and again, since Dragapult's not going to have 60 HP Pokemon like Duskull on their bench, and since you're just going to have access to more Munkidori's, more pieces there, you have more room for the text to beat Dragapult than Dragapult Dust Noir has for the slightly better matchup spread overall. You can even use things like Team Rocket's Petrol to search out Unfair Stamp, and then play Unfair Stamp to rip your opponent's hand into shreds. I think this this build of the deck seems incredibly powerful, and this is probably what I would be playing in a post-rotation tournament. So if we think about that, it's going to be our first tournament post Orlando Regionals, which I think that's Indianapolis on the state side, Los Angeles, and a few other tournaments, including the North American International Championships. So something to consider. Dragapult's great, Meowth's great. Start trying to pick up these cards. I mean, Meowth's coming out in Perfect Order as well. So stay tuned for that. We have Rocket's Honchkrow. So this is a pretty interesting build of the deck. I mean, we see Miracle Headsets being another A-spec. This card's 40 cents. So if you need it, pick it up while it's only 40 cents. Bring $1 to the store and maybe you'll get back some change. So this deck is just using the Team Rocket's Porygon to do extra damage based off the ones in your discard pile. You can do Ignition Energy. We can see that there is Rocket Feathers. You may discard any amount of supporters. So you can see the 4, 4, 4, 4, 3 with Petrol, being able to search them out with Rocket's Transceiver. So if you discard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 supporters, you can do 300 damage. 6 supporters means that you're going to be doing 360 damage, which I think is really cool. You can get those supporters back to add basically 120 to your hand with Miracle Headset, and of course playing your supporter for your turn does give you that extra bit. And if you have 4, 8, 12, 16, let's say you have 16 supporters in your discard pile, you have 3 that you just are keeping for play, like a late game Team Rocket's Archer, which is a great way to shuffle your opponent's hand to their deck. The built-in Iono kind of effect that we have, hand disruption. This is the best version, especially when you're playing Rockets. We can see that Team Rocket's Porygon is going to be able to hit for 320 if you have 16. So some decent numbers as a single prize card beatdown deck. This deck wouldn't really necessarily play Meowth because you have ways to search out your supporters with Team Rocket's Transceiver. Rotostick is a cool inclusion here. You get to look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal any number of supporter cards you find there and put them into your hand, especially if we're just going to be putting things back or clearing our deck out otherwise. We do have ways to kind of get out there, but it's really like the Team Rocket's Honchkrow coming from Ascended Heroes, really trying to kick our opponents out of the game. So I think Team Rocket's Honchkrow, pretty cool card across the board. This is a decent archetype if you're looking for a single prize card deck. I think it's semi-successful like Alakazam, and I think lists like this are probably going to end up being pretty stapled. Something like Rotostick might end up getting cut for a second Ultra Ball or a second Pokegear or something like that. I could see it going either way, but Rotostick is a cool card coming from Prismatic Evolutions, not really going from anywhere else. And then we kind of see another Rockets deck. We can see that there is Team Rocket's Spidops. Now, this deck, again, since we're not really going to be running with Meowth because we have access to the Team Rocket's Transceiver, you can see we have a similar supporter line with Ariana, Proton, Giovanni, Archer, etc. We're running with Max Belt because we can hit for 160 plus 60 plus 60. So we can hit a total of 280 damage. We probably need the Max Belt to knock out things like Dragapult, things that just have a lot of HP. If we kind of go back a page here quick, something like Mega Absol, you don't want to be hitting Mega Absol for 280 damage if they have a way to increase their HP of any sort. Now, it doesn't seem like they're necessarily playing any lively stadiums, so that might not necessarily be a good example, but maybe the Mega Kangaskhan's a good example. We'll go with this one. 300 HP. Hitting it for 280, not necessarily your greatest bet. So as we kind of go back here, you can see a couple of the other decks that might have it. Something like the Dragapult, again, we can't really knock out unless we put down the Lili's Clefairy. Something like the Mega Lucario, we can't really knock out because they just have too much HP. So it seems to be working out here quite well. We can see that this deck just seems to be using Erasure Ball. You have access to Team Rocket Spidops to get more energies in play. So it seems like this deck that was kind of a semi-played archetype might actually see some success as we go forward. If you're trying to pick up some Mewtwo's, Mewtwo's like this one are going to be worth $400+. And there's also the new one that's $300. Otherwise, I'd just say pick up a normal print of the card because that's going to be a little bit cheaper as we go on. Pretty standard deck here. I'm not sure if I like the one of bug catching set. Maybe I do like it. Maybe the one energy switch is cool. Decks like this are okay, and they're good relative beatdown decks. Probably good to make day 2 out of regionals or do well at a League Cup. We have another Dragapult, another Raging Bolt, another Ogerpon box. I don't think we've necessarily covered Ogerpon box. This one's a little bit more traditional with Lili's Clefairy for Dragapult, Wellspring Ogerpon to be able to draw 2 prize cards, and of course Teal Mask Ogerpon to get those things into play. I think that these are pretty cool decks, and you can see energy switches becoming a little bit more of a staple in this format. We have Cyrano, which is a great way to pick up whatever Pokemon EX that we want. Decks like these seem really cool, and especially like these Terra decks have access to Briar, so Terra decks seem to be doing very well across the board, and that's another theme. Like if you look at all the decks, they are very Terra themed. We do see Mega Lucario here. Mega Lucario, this version without Hariyama. I actually think I like the version with Hariyama probably a little bit more. So I am going to quickly cut out that list, not to take away from any particular player here. You can see that this is a version that has the Hariyama. So we're able to use the Heave-Ho Catcher to bring up one of your opponent's Pokemon. Wild Press is also a great single prize card attack, especially when you can power it up with Aura Jet. So if we look towards these decks, you can see that like there's a lot of similarities. Like Terra decks are good, some of the Rockets decks are okay, Dragapult decks are up there, and Teal Mask Ogerpon plus Tex usually takes up the rest. So as we kind of look towards the rest of the metagame, there's a lot of really cool stuff that's going on. Our format might be a little bit basic, but at least it's new basic decks. It's not just going to be like Charizard's gone, Gardevoir's gone, Goldango's gone, and cards like Iono are gone. So really the metagame does shake itself up quite a lot. So if that sounds good to you, it sounds good to me. I'm really excited to kind of play with this format, especially as we approach other tournaments like the 2026 North American National Championships in New Orleans, Louisiana. Stay tuned for more post-rotation content and other Pokemon TCG content. And if you're trying to improve your game, hit me up at metafy.gg/adsacmassage. I do offer coaching for players of all ages and all experience levels. I've worked with some of the absolute best players in the game, and I've helped some players go from scratch all the way to wherever they want to go. And yeah, let me know exactly what the Crustle here was cooking with. Like, maybe I just don't get it. Maybe they just, like, I don't know. I need to know exactly what was going on with the Team Rocket's Articuno. Maybe they're throwing off their opponents. Maybe it's an import thing. I need to know about the Pheasantipity. These are cards that are kind of outside of the normal, but it's cool to see Crustle up there. Anyways, I'm going to go edit this video. Much love. Peace out. Have a great one. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed the content that we have today, and maybe you'll click on one of these other videos, enjoy those videos too. If you haven't already, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments what video you want to watch next. Until next time, we'll catch up with all y'all later. Have yourself a great day.